Welcome, everyone. We are live on Facebook at the moment, and we are very happy to have you with us this morning. Our special guest today is Peter Towers, your business advisory expert. We invited him here, and we are privileged to have him to talk to us about the hot topic of the season, is equity crowdfunding, and he's going to explain it to us a bit. We've been granted exclusive interview with Peter, and we are really privileged to have him this morning. Welcome, Peter.
Thanks very much, Priscilla. Good morning, everyone. I hope you're having a wonderful day.
And Peter, talk to us a bit about your passion for this topic and your research. How did you get to actually build up this topic for us?
Within ESS BizTools, we try to identify emerging trends, new products that may be of interest to accountants, business advisors, and bookkeepers who are trying to offer a broader range of services than just compliance services. Compliance is important, of course, but I'd like to see that 30% of income is being generated by non-compliance services. The government 2.5 years ago, the then Prime Minister, Malcolm Turnbull, announced the innovation strategy of the government. And one of the key components of the innovation strategy was to introduce crowdsourced funding equity raising to Australia. Now we're playing catch up really. New Zealand, UK, USA, Canada and parts of Europe have now had crowdsourced funding equity raising for 6 or 7 years. But at last we've got it in Australia and it's operating. I think it's the biggest change for small and medium-sized businesses financing arrangements in Australia in the last 35 years. I really believe that accountants, if we are the trusted advisor as a profession, need to understand how crowdsourced funding equity raising works, and then to work to try to assist your clients and your prospects in your area, because not every accountant will do this, so that your clients can reap the benefit of being able to raise capital without having to mortgage assets, give personal guarantees, or make monthly loan repayments. So Priscilla, that's why I'm excited about this topic for this month.
Yes, we are really privileged to have you, and we know that you are the expert on the topic. You also have tools for accountants and small business, and we're going to direct them to those tools and how they can get help from us. Let's go to the basics. What is crowdsourced funding equity raising?
After the then Prime Minister, Mr. Turnbull, introduced the legislation, the current Prime Minister, who was then the Treasurer, introduced the legislation to make amendments to the Corporations Act. So the Act was amended. It's been amended twice for crowdsourced funding. It was originally amended, and that started in February 2018, but you had to be an unlisted public company to be able to take advantage. The market didn't like that. A lot of people decided they didn't want to convert from a proprietary company to an unlisted public company. The government was aware of this, and I think quite rightly introduced further amendments which become operational from the 19th of October 2018. And this was the big breakthrough, that proprietary companies, small proprietary companies, could then raise capital direct from the public. It also opened up the opportunity for thousands of people, small retail investors who traditionally have not had the opportunity of being able to invest in new emerging companies in Australia because they were not considered to be sophisticated investors. it opened up the opportunity for those people to make investments in small proprietary companies. And in the marketplace, it is now working.
Well, it looks like it's working. It's the hot topic of the season. So now we are stepping on it. So when did crowdsource funding equity raising start in Australia? It's a very new.
Yes, well, it started for unlisted public companies from February 2018. But more importantly, what I'm excited about, for small proprietary companies, it started on the 19th of October 2018. And we have companies who have successfully raised capital since that date in October 2018.
Fabulous, and it's very new, and Australia is lucky to step and align with the world on this one. So how much capital has been raised so far? We heard about millions and millions of dollars. Tell us more about this.
We're producing a scorecard on crowdsource funding for our subscribers, and the figure has now reached $26.5 million. So it's climbing every day. You can see it climbing. And that's from 30 companies have successfully completed capital raisings. I think the market for the full year will be around $100 million, and that's a great start. And some experts believe, of course, it's going to get very large over the next few years. So now's the opportunity for accountants and business advisors and bookkeepers to get an understanding of how this market works, and then to be proactive in talking to clients and prospects. Don't sit back and wait for them to come to you. Start communicating, run seminars and webinars so that your marketplace understands that you are proactive and are able to deliver these services to your clients.
Well, we accomplished that. Your website has this scorecard. You have that details on your website, or you just on the member area?
That's right.
All right. So what are the eligibility requirements to raise capital as a crowdsourced funding equity raising company? So we always talk about who's eligible, what is the requirements, and let's shed some light on this topic.
A company's turnover, or if it's part of a group, the group's turnover has to be under $25 million for the year. The company, or if they're part of a group's value of their gross assets, land, buildings, plant and equipment, motor vehicles, debtors, stock, has to be also under $25 million. It's a magical figure. No member of the group or the company itself can be listed on a stock exchange anywhere in the world. The company cannot be on a financial market, and the money used is not just going into a credit facility. It just can't be put into the bank. The government wants this money used because the companies are expected to generate profits so that they can pay dividends to their shareholders. Once the company proceeds to go down the path to be a crowdsourced funding company, it must have 2 directors. Obviously, if it is a public company, and public companies can still participate in this if they meet those turnover requirements and they're not listed on the stock exchange. Once it starts to go down that path, it's able to then start to raise capital, but it then needs 2 directors for a proprietary company and 3 directors for a unlisted public company.
Yeah, so it is a process which the companies have to go through, and we can enter details in the future, but at the moment we can talk about intermediaries and ASIC requirements, but it's not the scope of today's webinar. We'll come back with those details for you. So what are the differences between crowdsourced funding equity raising and just crowdfunding?
Yeah, it's a good question, Priscilla, because a lot of people are confused. And obviously, crowdfunding has been around in Australia longer than crowdsource funding equity raising. Let's look at crowdsource funding equity raising first of all. A company cannot just go to the public and ask for money for shares. That's illegal. We have the Corporations Act, which governs how all this operates. And as you know, and all the accountants, bookkeepers and advisors listening know, that the controlling entity is the Australian Security Investment Commission, ASIC. The legislation provides that ASIC will appoint businesses with Australian financial services licenses that have been termed intermediaries. Currently, there are 13 firms spread around Australia, most of them in capital cities. One is on the Gold Coast, who are the appointed intermediaries. ASIC intends, I gather, to continue to appoint more intermediaries as they monitor what's happening in the marketplace. A company cannot raise capital as a crowdsource funding company unless it has appointed an intermediary. To do that, I think companies should talk to more than one intermediary in the first instance, because they're all different. Some of them are offering services only in particular industries, whether it's agriculture, energy, pharmaceuticals, medicine, science. Others are offering services across all types of industries. One in particular doesn't charge fees in cash as such. They take equity in the company. So they are different, and company directors, together with their key advisors, the accountants, should be communicating with intermediaries to find out what the deal will be, because the legislation does not specify how much the intermediary can charge. The fees being charged vary from around 4% for a capital raise of $4 to $5 million to 6 to 8%. So it does vary. All shares must be processed, all share applications must be processed on the intermediary's website. So the intermediary takes the offer document that primarily the directors and the accountant have prepared. The intermediary would normally want to review that, and they have to do that as the gatekeeper for ASIC. But it's all got to be placed onto their website, and that's the only way that an investor can invest. They have to go personally to the intermediary's website. So if the managing director's favourite aunt wants to put in $250 to the company, she has still got to go onto the website, because the key document that every investor must read under the legislation is the investment warning. The government is paranoid that everyone understands that investing in any shares, whether it's a listed public company or a crowdsourced funding company, is risky, and they want everyone to understand that. The maximum amount that a retail investor can invest is $10,000 per company per annum, and the role of the intermediary is to monitor that. There is also a 5 business day cooling off period. So the potential investor can fill in the application form, pay their money, might be $4,000, and they can, under the law, they can change their mind. And if they change their mind, the intermediary has to refund 100% of the money, $4,000, if that's what they've paid, and destroy the application form. So the company directors will never know that Bill Brown was thinking about investing in the company, but they changed their mind. The key document in all this, as I mentioned before, is the crowdsource funding offer document, which is similar to a prospectus. They just haven't called it a prospectus, but it's the key document that virtually every company will need assistance from a proactive accountant to assist in the drafting of that document. So that's crowdsource funding equity raising. It is closely monitored and controlled by the intermediaries and by ASIC. Crowdfunding, though, is completely different. There is virtually no government laws. One day there might be, but it's come about if someone's had an unfortunate accident and been injured and they've got no money, so someone runs an appeal for them and then gives them the money. It comes about because someone's been killed in an accident and the family cannot afford for a funeral, and they make a public appeal for funds and people contribute. Some of these appeals these days do have trustees appointed, and I think that's a good idea so that the money is properly accounted for. But there's really nowhere near the government controls that there are for crowdsource funding equity raising. The other area that crowdfunding can be used for, some people who might have developed a little product in their backyard shed might put it out for some test marketing and say to the public through their site on Facebook or somewhere that they want to raise $10,000 to finish the prototype, but they'll give everyone it gives them more than $10. They'll give them a sample of the final product. That's crowdfunding. It's not issuing shares in the company. That's what the Corporations Act is primarily concerned with. And hopefully that gives your listeners a distinction between what the two terminologies are. They're very close in name, and that's a little bit unfortunate.
Yes, let's say that was great. What role can accountants play to assist small and medium-sized enterprises to raise equity capital? This is the question for us. What can us accountants do for them in this whole long process of, gathering the documents and all the information they need?
In the first instance, you need to understand what crowdsource funding is all about. At ESS BizTools, we have developed a complete product package which gives you the step-by-step process. It gives you the training material, first of all, so an accountancy firm can equip itself. It can make sure that the accountants and marketing people and anyone else you've got in your firm understands what this is all about, to talk the talk. It's just like learning a new section of the Tax Act. You've got to do the reading and prepare yourself. But the key process for your clients is being able to counsel them on what is involved. This is just not a matter of saying, I want to raise $500,000 and we're going to put a bit of paper together and we're going to go and find this guy called an intermediary and they're going to put it on their website. It doesn't work like that. The client needs to understand that their life story, their life misdemeanors, if they've been with the ASIC, are going to be disclosed in this document. So that might change the opinion of some people. Maybe they shouldn't be directors any longer. Those sort of questions need to be answered if a company wishes to raise capital. But then there's some key documents that they will need. Companies will need a business plan. They need to articulate their vision, their strategy, where they're going, because investors want to know that this is going to be a worthwhile investment. And investors are also interested in, and in fact, the Act requires a disclosure as to what the exit strategy is. What's the plan of the directors in this company? The company will need to have prepared budgets and cash flow forecasts, because the intermediary has to satisfy themselves that this company has got some vision, has got an idea where it's going to go. They need to have articulated what they're going to do with the money. You just can't go to the market and raise $500,000. And when you've raised it, say, okay, lads, we better sit down now, and ladies, and work out what we're going to do with this money. You've got to be able to articulate it in the offer document. There needs to be some determination as to the price you're going to charge for the shares. Whilst there's no need for a valuation to be prepared and published, I still think you've got to go well down the track in preparing a valuation so that you can work out, if you introduce $500,000 in capital, what percentage of the company is going to be allocated for those shares. It's just not a matter of tossing a coin and deciding. There should be some fact. So that's the role for accountants. And at the end of this process, I think there's going to be a lot of opportunities for accountants to offer themselves as virtual chief financial officers for these companies, because hopefully the companies are going to appoint more than 2 directors. I'm hopeful they'll appoint another 1, 2, maybe 3 directors who have got some real business experience. And they will be looking for prompt, accurate financial accounts together with management reports. In summary, crowdsourced funding, I think, opens up a tremendous range of opportunities for proactive accountants.
Yes, that's what I wanted to say. We can take a proactive role and advisory role and hold a hand through this process. So what is your suggestion to accountants? How can we prepare ourselves for this?
I've said the word a couple of times, proactive. I get a little bit annoyed, to be honest, when I talk to accountants and they say, oh, that's all very interesting, Peter. When someone comes and asks us about crowdsourced funding, we'll contact you then. I think it's the wrong answer. I think it's too late.
Yes.
The small, medium enterprise market is not used to going to their accountants to talk about this type of capital raising, because they think that accountants in the small end of the market, and that's where most of these businesses will currently be getting served. They'll be getting served by small to medium-sized accountancy firms all over Australia, in every city, town, and regional area, small communities. That's where these clients are. If they don't hear from their local accountants, I think they're probably entitled to assume that their local accountant's only really interested in tax returns. And a lot of them are, of course, we all know that. But they will then start going off to the cities to find one of the big firms. I think that's very sad. I think this is a tremendous opportunity for an accountancy firm to grow with your clients. Sure, you might not have done this before, but virtually no other accounting firm in Australia has done this before. The only ones that really know anything about it if they've imported someone from New Zealand or one of the other countries around the world that's already got crowdsourced funding, and the legislation is different. So this is a great opportunity. Accountants always say that the tax commissioner or the government through the treasurer keeps accountants in business with continually amending the Tax Act. Well, this time they've amended the Corporations Act, which has opened a great opportunity for some accountants in Australia to take advantage of that, to become experts in this biggest change in the financing of small, medium-sized businesses in 35 years.
Exactly. So let's just try to get proactive over there. So what should a business that is interested in reviewing the opportunities under crowdsourced funding, equity raising, what should they do, where they can go, and what's the first step for them?
Good question, and we probably should apologise to any of the business people listening, because we've been concentrating on the accountants, bookkeepers, business advisors point of view. But I think if you're interested as a business person in understanding how this works, ask your accountant. If your accountant says they don't know, well, ask them to contact you, Priscilla, or contact ESS BizTools, and we will show them the products we've got. But if a business person wants to go further, they can log on to your website and you will have access to the material which we've included on our small business website.
Yes, you were information. Where to find, where to find the support, you were saying.
Yeah, well, the support's available via Priscilla's website, and people can go there, and that is linked through to the ESS Small Business website, where there are articles available. Some are free, some are for sale, that company directors, managers, shareholders, or even people currently running businesses as a sole trader or a partnership, or in a partnership, because you can, with accounting advice, of course, look at converting into a company to take advantage of this legislative change. So you can do some reading and get a better understanding of how it all works. And then be able to talk to an accountant who understands crowdsourced funding. On our ESS Small Business website, we do have a link there, find an accountant, and we have our subscribers' details available there. All you've got to do is, as a business person, is insert your postcode and the system will identify accountants that you could contact.
Fabulous. So we partnered up. I'm trying to support Peter on his quest, on his amazing mission of helping accountants and small business with these projects. We offer 30-minute strategy meeting where we talk about the possibilities, and I think that's infinite possibilities for small business to actually apply for these funds. SB's Tools website is an amazing, you're gonna spend a lot of time in there because it's amazing what Peter has for you in there. It's the best advisory tools I've ever met in my 25 years of career. And again, the small businesses, they do have now a separate website where they can go, so they don't have to get bogged with technicalities and jargon. The small business have their own website with their own tools, and I'm sure that you're going to be amazed at what you're going to find in the we encourage you to go and just take advantage of the top of the range advisory tools. What Peter's lifetime of work is behind it. And my website also picks up the discount, the hot topic of the month, because we're gonna have Peter every month, every third Wednesday of the month. He's gonna be with us, or maybe the last Wednesday of the month. And he's going to be with us sharing amazing topics and advisory. This is my website where you can find the promo codes for the month. And every month we're going to have a new hot topic, Peter. Is it?
Yes, that's right, Priscilla. And I look forward to talking to you and to your listeners on the third Wednesday of the month.
Yes, we thank you for your time, your precious time, we can say. We are very privileged to have you as our expert and our advisory expert. And I hope that our audience appreciates what you did share with us today.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks for your time, Peter.
Thank you very much, Priscilla. Have a wonderful day and goodbye, everyone. And I'll talk to you in a month's time.
Thanks, Peter.
Thank you.